Hello, friends. It's Friday. What day is it? I think it's the 16th. Anyhow, I have a little bit of a script or outline that I'll stick to today. Getting a little better. It took me some time to gather my thoughts, but today I'll tell you about my diagnosis and the timeline between that day and when I decided to get or go forward with getting the surgeries for DBS. So back in the beginning, basically from 2020, well, even farther than that, but from like 2020 to 2022, I had been seeing PT, a few different ones until I found one that I liked. And then I started going back to my chiropractor because I had pain in my left shoulder, and it had started tremoring. Basically, 2022 is when I got my tremor, and I thought it was just because I never had PT for a shoulder that I had minor surgery on. So, sorry, I have a little bit of a sniffy nose, and my voice is raspy again because I was outside moving some scrap hay that the sheep don't eat and spreading it over mulching my plants, all the plants that I planted this last year. And I have a little bit of an allergy thing. Hopefully it's not my cough, but this isn't acting like that. So, but anyhow, this is I'm Kimberly Riggs. This is me uncut, unedited, and unfiltered, where I will now bring you to speed from the date of my diagnosis, my journey since diagnosis with Parkinson's. So I have been seeing my chiropractor for neck issues. He's the one that told me to get a second opinion about my shoulder, and I did, and that doctor did the surgery for me. So then I was seeing the chiropractor for my back because I joined CrossFit with my husband and our two best friends, a couple, John and Robbie, and we were gonna hold each other accountable. Well, weeks down the road, I'm all by myself because my husband, I think, is away at work, either out of this town in another part of Texas or overseas. I can't remember which. I think it was Texas. And John and Robbie bowed out. So I went alone, supervised. And I was late. It was a holiday CrossFit thing. Can't remember what they're called. Regardless, I was late. Everybody had already started. It was really crowded. I pulled all my gear together into my little, area that I boxed myself in on. And I just jump in. I don't even warm up. Big mistake. I seriously injured my back, my low back, which is already weak because I have had a pelvic fusion from having too many big-headed Riggs kids. My last two babies were Riggs, and they broke me. Anyhow, different story. My chiropractor noticed my curling toes on the left side, and eventually, closer to the end of summer that 2022, he told me to seek out a neurologist because he felt the tremor in my left side also. I had been feeling it and noticing it once in a while. My husband wasn't home enough to notice it yet at that point. After a few mishaps on making the wrong appointment with the wrong kind of doctor and all this, because I could just go to whoever I wanted with the insurance that we have. But now they're starting to require more referrals just because, well, not because of me and going to the wrong doctors, But I needed a neurologist, not a neurosurgeon. So there was a few little mishaps. My diagnosing doctor was just that, a neurologist that I found. I don't think I even got any reference to go to him. He was in San Antonio, and at my first appointment, let me tell you now, I kind of thought of him not very well after my diagnosis, because just the part of telling me I had Parkinson's, he wasn't very good at, and kind of sprung it on me. He could have said that, like, when I first walked in and he assessed me, he could have said, yes, you have Parkinson's. But instead, he says, well, I'm going to send you out for a DAT scan and give you a prescription and start taking it. And I'm like, I'll fill the prescription, but I'm not going to take it until the DAT scan confirms whatever you're trying to. I had not done any research on that kind of stuff. I didn't know that I needed a DAT scan to, I didn't know what a DAT scan was yet. So I was just doing whatever, he told me to go do. So I got the DAT scan end of October, or second half of October. And, they had to inject me with some contrast. And granted, I'd already had an MRI with my PCM, which came back negative. So I don't like the way he handled telling me that my DAT scan was positive for Parkinson's. He just had his receptionist call me and just throw it at me and not even offer to, follow up, to tell me more, to whatever. So I insisted with like a week later, after my initial shock and not knowing really if that was a death sentence or not for me specifically, I called them and insisted on a follow-up. I was, obviously a lot of us are in denial that it's uncurable or that we even have it. We want to try to basically waste the doctor's time, but I didn't like how he had handled it. I went for my follow-up. He said that I for sure have it and I need to start taking those meds, and I straight up told him, not yet. I'm not taking them yet. I don't understand, the way that this was announced to me. So that was in October. That was like October 22nd, I think, that I got the DAT scan results. So fast forward to that December, 2 months later, my husband was home and he said that what if I take the meds and it made me feel better, like I had no pain, or everything that I complained about just like disappeared or melted away or whatever. So I relented and I went ahead and started taking him in December. I was only on him for maybe at the most 4 weeks at the prescribed dose, 3 a day. And it didn't do anything at that point. And I didn't have any other instructions, so I just took myself off the dopamine. By looking back, that doctor knew I had Parkinson's, but I think that at my first appointment, he should have said that. Like, he should have said, I'm thinking maybe this is, or, find some lighthearted way of, introducing that fact to me, and then say, I want to follow it up with a DAT scan to make sure that I'm correct, or, I need you to start taking these meds so that when all these symptoms disappear or whatever, we know that they're working. That means that if the medicine's working, then you do have Parkinson's. So I didn't give that doctor a lot of credit because of the fact that he fucked up excuse my language. No, don't excuse it. It's uncut, unedited, unfiltered. He knew Parkinson's. He he knew it, but he should have said something at the first appointment when he sent me home with all this stuff to do, and not just, sprung it on me a few weeks later after the DAT scan results came back. So now we're into January and I'm not on the meds anymore. And then February I didn't take the meds. And then by the end of March, my husband was getting ready to come home, I think from overseas. Yeah, that was 2023 now. And it's March. That birthday that year in February, I had a friend that was going to throw a big party and invite all her friends and family that had a February birthday party and throw one big party. And she told me to invite, my family that was here in Texas. And I gave her, sorry, Michelle, I gave her the nod, like, okay, but I was in a really deep, dark place at the time and I wasn't planning on going at all. I didn't even tell the kids here that lived in Texas still that it was happening. And I don't know if Michelle called somebody to let them know it was happening, but that Friday before Saturday the 11th, the party was on my actual birthday. My other two daughters flew in from Oklahoma and Colorado to surprise me for my birthday. And my husband was, like I said, overseas until March. And pretty much like they all forced me to go to the party, where I met my friend's friends, who the husband of this couple had Parkinson's and had the DBS surgery. And of course, I'm very new at all this. I don't want to hear about brain surgery. Screw that. That's not going to be me. And so I listened to them. It was pretty moving, but like I said, I was very, very depressed at the time. I was contemplating ending my life because I was so miserable and so afraid of all of it. Just like, I'll just do everybody a favor and end it now so they don't have to deal with this disease and me progressing any further. That was February. March comes, my husband comes home, and I had just days before he arrived home, I had called that friend of a friend who had the DBS surgery and asked for their MDS's phone number so I can call and see if I could be seen. So that was my first MDS, and she was pretty hard. She was intimidating, and she made me cry on more than one occasion. And when I first went to see her, I had a panic, nervous, anxiety attack type thing, and that brought my cough on bad. And she thought I had COVID and gave me a mask to wear until my coughing attack went away. I couldn't even speak until I could hardly breathe. Excuse me. So my husband gets home, and I had already put the call in, and then the next Monday, I had left a message on Friday. He came in on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They called me back and said they do take our insurance and that they had an opening the next day at 9:30. And I asked my husband if he would take me, and he wasn't, happy about it because he had just gotten home, but I needed somebody to drive me because my low blood pressure stuff. Well, I didn't have that then. I needed somebody to come with me and, number one, drive, but also hold me accountable, I guess, but not in the way that he does sometimes. Oh my gosh. So that was that. And then, so she assessed me. She spent I want to say 2 hours with me the first session. I think any good MDS doesn't, diagnose lightly. They talk to you, and even if you're blank because you just got the news or whatever, they talk to you and they explain things to you. And she did all that. Anyhow, she assessed me, and she said that I had Parkinson's for over 10 years, and she started me on 3 meds. it was the carbidopa levodopa, and she wanted me to get the main brand, the cinnamon. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Residuline and Rytary. And she started me off the carbidopa levodopa cinnamon immediate release 3 times a day, just like the past doctor. But in 6 weeks' time, she slowly increased it to 5. In 6 weeks, she told me that she told me 2 things before I left. She goes, if I don't follow her instructions per the letter, don't bother coming back. Don't, she doesn't want her time wasted. And she said, don't waste your time on supplements and over-the-counter or extra over-the-counter vitamins and minerals or supplements, but also over-the-top wazoo new treatments or whatever for neurodegenerate. Don't waste your money, don't waste your time, she said. So she told me that by the time I came back in 6 weeks that I would feel like a new woman. And I did. She wasn't wrong. So this is running over. I'm going to have to do this one in a 2-part thing. I don't know how to follow this and not fill in the blanks because I'm already at 16 minutes and I don't want to go any further. It's nighttime and I want to go get ready for bed. So I will do a part 2 to this, and I will post them the same day, probably after I do this other one. Anyhow, thanks for listening. I'm messy, but I'm still standing. Thank you. And thank you for spending your time here. I appreciate it.